Podcast 2. In this episode of our podcast, we'll be discussing topics like spiritual transformation, belief, emotions, consciousness, and the subconscious. We hope you enjoy it.
Hello! Welcome to the first episode of our podcast, The Beginning of Change, Know Yourself. Today we'll be talking about that turning point we all encounter at some point in our lives, change, or rather becoming that change itself. Our guest, a very valuable expert in this field and the author of the text, is the esteemed Mr. Kubile. But before we dive into the topic, there are a few important questions we need to ask ourselves on the path to change. These questions might just be a translation of what's on your mind as well. Have you ever wondered why you feel something is missing in your life, even when you've achieved the things you wanted most? Do you see facing and accepting your weakest points as a strength or a weakness? Have you ever felt like you were making the same mistakes over and over again on your path to personal development, only to find yourself back where you started? And finally, on this spiritual journey to find yourself, would you be willing to give up the old you? We'll hear the answers to all these questions and more from Mr. Kubile. Mr. Kubile, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. As always, that was a fantastic introduction. Yes, the beginning of change. Know yourself. Today, we'll be discussing that big question you may have asked yourself at some point in your life. Is my current life truly mine? Have you ever heard a whisper from within saying something needs to change even when nothing seems to be missing and everything is going well? When you hear that whisper, know that you are on the right path. It is at this very moment that we are filled with the desire to roll up our sleeves and take that first step. But along with that desire comes an inevitable question. Where do I even begin? Believe me, if you are asking this question, you're on the right track. Because the real issue is knowing where the first step of change is. In this podcast, we'll be talking about the first and most critical step of this journey, the art of knowing ourselves. It's about knowing what kind of person we want to be and recognizing what awaits us on this path. If you're ready, let's embark on this profound journey together. The beginning of change. Know yourself. Before you start a change, knowing yourself will help you take firmer steps when deciding what kind of character you want to have. Sometimes, a moment comes when everything is going well and you're living the life you desire, yet you realize that life isn't truly yours. You might not know exactly what it is, but you understand that some things need to change. Even if you can't pinpoint this urge, you feel an immediate desire to change things and roll up your sleeves. If you're following this path or considering it, what I share below will feel familiar to you. Yes, we were talking about deciding to change. When making this decision, that question immediately comes to mind, but where should I start? If you're asking this question, you're on the right track, because I've witnessed people who started the change process without ever asking where to begin. I was one of them. Without elaborating too much, what I want to convey is this. If you have the desire to change and want to take the first step, you must do it by first knowing yourself. If you ask what I mean by this, I can tell you that understanding your own character is the first stage of change. Self-awareness and acceptance. The emotions that form our character begin to develop from childhood. Throughout our lives, we continue without questioning or labeling these emotions. While there are strong aspects within these emotions, we also have weaknesses. After all, not every individual is born and raised under the same conditions. Therefore, we must accept the possibility that we will always have weaknesses. Starting our change process by identifying these weaker emotions that might reside within our character will save us time. One of the most important lessons I've learned through my own journey is that for change, we need to develop certain key emotions that should be present in our character. Just as we can't stick to our decisions without self-respect or manage our time without self-discipline, we can't begin change without similar emotions. The emotions necessary for change include self-discipline, self-respect, self-love, consistency, continuity, determination, self-confidence, desire, and aspiration, among many others. If we begin change without knowing and understanding these emotions, it's highly likely that we'll return to where we started. At least that's been my experience and the experience of my clients. The effect of patience in the change process. Another crucial element in the change process is the need for patience to develop. Every low-frequency habit that's dropped will be replaced by another high-frequency habit. For example, an individual who realizes they're not consuming healthy foods, understands that ready-made foods no longer benefit them, and that this habit is self-sabotaging. They decide to quit this habit and start consuming fresh and natural foods instead. As easy as it sounds, I know it's hard in practice. Patience, consistency, self-confidence, self-respect, and self-love are the most important emotions for such changes. The main principle is this. As we descend into the deeper dimensions of our subconscious mind within our inner world, we begin our ascent in our spiritual world. Patience is necessary for every new habit added to our character to settle in and for us to control that habit without expending excessive energy. What I mean is, if you do what's necessary with willingness, continuity, and discipline, and you trust yourself, consistency will show itself. You'll be able to easily understand the emotions in your newly formed character and be able to respect this new identity. The emotion of patience is the core emotion of the stages I mentioned above. Although each emotion has its own stages, every emotion is a core emotion in its own right. Every emotion is organized and in communication with other emotions. We can illustrate this with concepts like, if there's no self-confidence, there's no self-discipline, or if there's no determination, there's no continuity. Analysis, awareness, and acceptance. For courageous entrepreneurs wanting to embark on change, the other three core emotions are analysis, awareness, and acceptance. My experience has shown that no emotion can develop without the emotion of awareness. To illustrate, I knew exactly where I was to initiate change, and I had started taking steps to realize my decision. However, somehow I kept returning to my starting point. I was so focused on my goal that I failed to notice the habits that were self-sabotaging me on my way to the goal. I always ignored them. Unfortunately, there's an emotion inherent in human nature: rejection. We shy away from confronting our inner world and don't want to accept that we have self-sabotaging habits. Even if we see them, confronting them isn't something we do often. Even though I thought I knew a lot, I also went through this stage. I was so certain of my target point that I had no knowledge of acceptance being necessary for change. After every attempt, there followed feelings of hopelessness and exhaustion. This led to a state of despair. Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a stage where many people stall and turn back in their personal development journey. It's true to say that the self-analysis necessary for change, that is, the emotion of self-observation, being part of the emotion of awareness, makes the situation difficult. Keeping these two emotions stable and initiating change with them truly requires significant energy. Just as these two emotions need to remain stable, the disappointment and sadness that come with acceptance can push an individual towards self-sabotage. This is another reality of human nature. Acceptance is often seen and perceived as a weakness. Rejecting and trying to win maintains our ego and keeps us fixed in our comfort zone. Yes, the conscious mind doesn't like change, and the comfort zone is its first preference. The emotion of acceptance will bring out the suppressed emotions in the subconscious. With the necessary information for change, change itself will begin. The emotion of acceptance is the key to spiritual transformation. It begins with analysis, awareness intervenes, and acceptance initiates change. If you'd like more detailed information on this topic, please email me. Let's remember that the process of change and development varies for each person and offers different experiences for every individual. Additionally, individuals' experiences, emotions, perceptions, and timing will differ during this process. The timing of change and the spiritual journey. There's no definite time for change to occur. The average time depends entirely on your past experiences and how you've coded, perceived, and believed them. For instance, let's say there's a habit within the family. You code into your consciousness why you perform this habit. This habit's origin, how you came to believe it, who influenced it, and the resulting emotions are all ingrained in your subconscious. If these habits are equipped with dynamics like physical abuse, punishment, emotional neglect, or passive aggression, then yes, change can take time. The emotions created by these dynamics are generally bad experiences and traumatic outcomes. Each individual perceives or interprets the results of personal events in our life journey differently. I will share my experiences regarding the change process in more detail in my other writings. During this process, please email me for any problem you can't find a way out of. Perhaps the solution to your problems will be an exit door for other courageous people. Entering the path of spiritual change means that after a certain process, there's no turning back. It means that the self that sees the truth lets go of its old beliefs and accepts what is real. During the change process, you inevitably witness the emotion of belief. If you realize that a habit belonging to your essence actually belongs to someone else, that habit then leaves you, and your suppressed inherent self returns. Ascension and change happen this way. A new you emerges, a new self you'll want to meet and love. It sounds very exciting, and in practice, it's an adventurous journey. Don't we sometimes tell ourselves that every event that happens has a reason? And to know and understand this reason, we embark on a journey into the unknown. It's worth starting. See you in my next article.
Okay, Mr. Kubilay, thanks so much for this amazing, useful information about self-transformation. That's all for today, dear listeners, and see you all for the next episode of our podcast.